You're live. Are we really live? I think we are. Hello, everyone. Just making sure this is working. I hope everyone is doing well tonight. Just a random live here, not much plan here. I was going to mess around with coils a little bit, but I've got like 10 voltmeters in the batteries. A guy like me, right? Can you imagine? Batteries are all dead. So I got to go to the store. I mean, uh, I guess I'm not that adventurous. A 10-year ago me would have said, no problem, these are all alkaline batteries. I'll just Bedini them back to life and then I'll have a meter for tonight. Just wait an hour, right? But I don't want to do those things anymore and risk blowing things up. So it's like, you know what? I'm just going to wait until tomorrow, go to the store and buy some batteries. And I'm going to get my voltmeters going again. And that's ironic, right? The energy guy running out of batteries. So, yeah, with that said, I'm just rambling on here because I go live. It takes a while for people to realize that I'm live and join in here. So no main topic or anything special. So no one's really missing out on anything. Just gonna pay attention to the chat once in a while and see where it goes. Just an open discussion like I do. Um, so with that said, it's unscripted. So there are pauses here and there as I try and think of what to say next and my observations. So those who have been following me know that this is, I live in northern Canada where it's very cold, northern Ontario. So just trying to get through the hardest part of winter here. So just keeping myself busy, but it's very hard waiting for parts here. But on the plus side, stuff is slowly coming in. I got these nice big huge copper plates for surface area, whether I want to make capacitors or power cells or whatever it is. Nice and thick. I think 1.5 millimeter thickness. But it's so expensive, like over $100 for that. Everything, the basic needs to be imported. I'm in Canada, so with the tariffs and the shipping and the isolation and the remote, it's like paying like 4 or 5 times for that thing. It's insane. And it's like, why? Because I live in Canada. I'm isolated and, I get snow 10 months of the year. And for that, I feel anyways, like I gotta pay 10 times more than everything else that's basic that everyone else in the USA, they take for granted, right? So yeah, it's not all roses in Canada, but I don't want to vent about our politics right now and what's going on. Ugh. Anyways, changing the topic here. Is there anyone here or am I rambling alone? So far I actually have 4 people. That's pretty cool for not announcing it. So yes, I will get out of politics right away. I didn't want to go there. It's just talking about Canada in general and you know, and relative to where I'm located in northern Ontario, it's northern and isolated. So just things are just so expensive. Just basic electric parts, duct tape, paint, you name it, materials for 3D printing, everything is just so expensive. There's not like a store here, especially in this small town in Cochrane, where you can walk in and just get this stuff, especially when it gets into science supplies. And then you pay a premium because it's considered a specialty. But I got a lot of plans. Work is going along well. They're treating me well. It's just politics, I guess. I'm very happy about it, but it's a team and it's something different for me. Having to deal with a team of lawyers, a team of electrical engineers, a team of university professors. We've got a big team. And I can't say very much because I'm under strict non-disclosure agreement, but it was quite a challenge, right? Because you all know in this energy stuff, whether you look at the Tom Bearden, the Floyd Sweet, the Kappa Gen, the Don Smith, the Bedini, it goes on and on and on and on. And there's hundreds of variants with all good candidates and some of them better than others, right? But a big issue is a lot of this, unfortunately, especially in I say the Tom Bearden, traditional engineers don't like hearing terminology like ZPE, vacuum, quantum physics, quantum coupling, quantum entanglement, open system electrical energy, and that sort of thing, right? And with the company, they basically, any company for anything needs investors, and investors will have their teams of lawyers because they're not just going to spit out money, blindly, right? So they want to have some kind of a clue that at least when they're, even though it's capital investments, that at least they have some chance that they might get something back out of it. So they have their own electrical engineers to validate the stuff, figure out, based on an introductionary, are we going to invest in this? Investments drive the business, and the business we exist. So here's the story: is I get the task as chief engineer, find us something in the thousands of projects that you know about or that you think may be relevant. That would be the most grounded in physics that any electrical engineer can look at and agree with without hesitation. You know why I'm laughing at that, right? Because it's like, hello, story of every over unity researcher trying to convince a traditional engineer that this stuff is really real, right? So they're like, pick something and make sure they'll agree and we'll go with that, right? So as funny as it sounds, I actually was successful in like the thousands of variation, narrowing it down to something that's actually grounded. Again, I can't talk about it, but something that's actually grounded. When an electrical engineer looks at it, goes, "Oh yeah, okay, this we missed this, but this will work. Okay, go for it, right?" So believe it or not, I'm really proud of myself for that, to have found something actually that I can communicate with real engineers and university professors, and everyone's on board full blast. But that's one thing, again, as I said, out of thousands of variations. And there are probably some that are actually a lot better out there than others. And back to the Tom Bearden stuff, the Mag and whatnot, and the Bedinis, I'd like to experiment with that myself. And obviously, I can't build a replica, if you know what I mean, of a Tom Bearden Mag, go to my company and say, show this to the investors and tell them it's ZPE energy. They'll laugh at us. They'll call us names. They'll say we wasted their time, right? But it's not to say that there's not actually something there if you know anything about the Tom Bearden philosophy and the open systems. So is there something for that or similar stuff that's left for me to research? And that's what I've been trying to determine on the side here. What's left that's not conflicting with the company, that I could experiment with on my own. Just not half of it is to pass the time, and the other half is to learn myself into what it is that I was actually interested in. So because obviously the mag is a no-no for investors. I've been playing a lot in that field and similar Don Smith and whatever's open anyways. You can't stop talking about what's already open source. So I've been keeping myself rooted in that stuff and trying to help people along the way. And of course, there's always room for finding more interactions, more ways to cope and deal with open systems and interact with those, right? Once you get the big picture, you realize that, oh my goodness, there's so many ways to get to this goal here. So the power cells, of course, is something else I like, which is very successful. I wouldn't call it commercial quality power, right? But power that could actually run a DC motor, give you low level AC, run clocks and that sort of thing. The science fascinates me. So it's something, and of course the company isn't paying for that. So I can play with that with my own money as much as I want until my heart's content, right? And I do share the results as I go along with that, and made most of that open anyways. So that personally interests me, but of course, no commercial value for the company, which puts me in the clear. I can work on this, and that's what we've been doing. But I have to say, I don't know how to explain it, folks. I'd like it to be more. I guess as chief engineer, it's what you expect. It's a lot of paperwork, a lot of mathematics, a lot of planning how the project, how we're going to go along, and every 2 3 days we have meetings, right? And we sync up, and it's making sure the team and everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing, and where we are and where we want to be and where we're going to be in 2 3 years. And most of that is work from home, obviously. As long as I got a computer, I can do all these reports, circuit diagrams, whatever. It's all stuff I do at home. And it's not personally my vision where I wanted to be the guy in the lab making all the discoveries. You know what I'm trying to say? What it's turning out to is we're subcontracting, you're going to plot a certain characteristic, and this is a company over here that's going to do it. And they don't talk to another guy that we hire somewhere else to build, specialty wires, let's say. And then they do their thing and they don't talk to the other. And I look at that, okay, now we need someone to work on, or let's say, shielding. That gets done to another lab, which is great. I get it. Everything is modular, it's quick connect. But everything is in its own lab, which we're just, I tell everyone what, which is the direction, and then the company, as an executive, okay, decide from there one who gets the subcontract for every, and that's how it works. I get it. But because of that, it's not like I've got this big Tesla lab like I was visualizing and I was going to be the boss and I'm going to have like 200 people working for me and we're all in lab coats doing all these different heavy side experiments. That's what I do if it were my money personally, right? Because that's what, as much hobby as fascination, I don't care if there'd be a loss. But as a business, they got to do, what they think they're going to have a return on. So they're doing everything by the book, and I totally get that. And I'm playing my part in that and offering my abilities to the best. And they're very happy with, and I'm very happy with it too. I'm really excited. We're going in a really good path. But with that said, as far as the build, the actual progress, the innovations we're making, the discoveries, I'm not really in on it. I get the reports, obviously, from every, department, but I didn't get to play and get dirty in the sand, so to speak, myself. So it's just trying to do stuff, to please my own hobby on the side, things that I want to find out. I want to make the discoveries. I want to see. I want to learn. But I also get some of the stuff you need all of that lab. You can't just do it at home. So there's a best of both worlds. There's a balance. So just putting my perspective out there, in case people were somehow getting jealous or something. It's not at all what it looks like. Of oh my goodness, he gets to be today version of Tesla. No, it's nothing like that. But it is keeping everybody happy, and if they're all happy, I'm happy, and when I'm happy, they're happy, and it's a perpetual loop, right? So I hope everyone is doing well. Just randomly talking here. Would like to get a little bit more into setting up some sort of a home lab, but again, I've been putting everything on hold. Can you believe it? It's already been a year now with the company. And I was trying to gauge myself, figure out what we're doing, where we're going to go, how big we're going to get. Am I going to move? Right? That's a big factor as well, right? I'm in an isolated northern Ontario. I don't think if we would grow significantly, I want to stay here, especially if I end up making more money. So that's been in the consideration. You don't upgrade a place, you don't set up a home lab, or even rent a place and set up a lab. Even personally, for me, if in a year and a half from now I'm going to be moving to Silicon Valley or close by there, than having to do all that there and all the work, dismantling, keeping whatever. And so I've been pretty well keeping, like, from a year now. I haven't really done much. I get parts from myself, as you see in my videos here. It's much of the equipment I've had for a while. I don't. What I'm saying is I'm not building my home lab much known because of the company. Where am I going to go? I don't think I'm going to stay here, but maybe I might. I don't want to take the chance and build this lab and gotta dismantle it or trash half of it because I can't move it where I'm going to go. And I really think the company is going to go big places. So I'm kind of like on hold, just waiting, gauging, seeing where it's going to go before I make a major jump, right? So, but honestly, I need to get out of here. I want to get out of here. It's too isolated. It's too far away. Opportunities, they're not very good. It's not cool when it takes like a month for a simple part, like a specialized transistor to come in. How the heck am I supposed to quality, what am I trying to say? Quality wise experiment when it's just hang-ups like that, right? And again, it's infuriating. A $5 transistor comes from the US, hits the border, hits you with the tariffs and the import fees and everything. Then it ends up being $25. Then the Canadian government turns around and says, okay, it's worth $25, and then you paid $15 shipping, so 25 plus 15, they add that up, and then they figure out the tax, so you're double taxed on it. So next thing you know, the part is like $65 that you got to pay in import fees, custom fees, and everything else. It's all there on the list and on the slip for literally what may have been just a few dollars. It started off at like maybe $5, $10, and you're up to over 50 for one little part. So it's very, I mean, it's okay, I guess, the fact that I had the money for that specific experiment, but it's not cool that, again, it makes you wonder, what am I getting back for it? I live in Canada, Northern Ontario, isolated. We're small compared to the USA. And weather-wise, you get minus 30 winter for 10 months out of the 12. And I got to pay all that extra for it. I mean, I would understand if as a country, right, there's something to justify for it. We have like a 10 times better quality of living than the US. Everyone who tells you that, they're lying. I mean, it's the other way around, actually. There was a recent paper saying that we're actually, the whole country is poorer than Alabama as a state, their economy-wise. So, and it's how they framed it in the article, right? Just like that, out of the blue, it's like, just like that. Yeah, right. I could tell you, like, more like 15 years of bad leadership is what actually led to that, and everybody's jumping up and down, telling everyone to wake up, and like, unfortunately, half the problem with Canada is the people. Vance is right. It's the people that Canadians elect. They're bad leaders that lead them to where we are. But part of that is the small person like me. For a little battery like this has to pay $30 more because politicians are in a hissy fit right now. One hates the other and one's got an arrangement. I don't get it, but that's where we're at. And it does definitely hurt the small guy. And like I said, if there was something for it, what I see is cold, and you have to pay like 10 times more, and you get cold and isolation and lack of opportunities. I mean, you could almost say the path of Canada itself is like, oh, population-wise, New York City is almost all of our country. One city, So if you're spread out like that within 8-12 hours more, and then, BC it's 3 days of drives. So, I mean, like I said, whatever your trade you're into, your opportunities are slashed compared to the same qualifications in the USA. But I get the USA has all their problems and everything. But honestly, um, at this point, I'd like to pay the same that I'm paying now, but at least not freeze for 10 months of the year and be so isolated. You know, if you're going to pay, my way of looking at it, if you're going to pay the same for your lifestyle and you're the same quality of life, I mean, if I get it, some people are into cold winter sports and all that. I'm not. So I'm trying to, I'd like to escape as much of winter as I could. But, the way I see it is if I got to pay this much to be here and I get nothing back, I may as well pay this much and be, we're literally paying California prices here. And I'm in a small town of 5,000 people. You're talking about $2,000 to $4,000, 2,000 for a low end, 4,000 for something that makes sense and rent a month in the middle of nowhere. I mean, I'm going to pay for that for 10 months and minus 30 cold, but I may as well pay for that much and find a nice place somewhere in California, a lot closer to my folks. And that's just an example, but it wasn't like that before. I mean, there used to be a little bit more to be proud of, but our industry, our economy is down the tubes. And our political people are trying to act like nothing to see here. But whatever. I try and do what I can, ignore the noise, work on my projects, my research, my experiments, do what I can to please my company. And here I am now tonight. I wanted to do an experiment, and my batteries are all dead. I got this one here. I'm not even sure if it works. I was going to say, I'll put it on my meter. That's funny, right? Maybe I'll put it in my meter, and if it runs, then I'll know it works. May as well put these away here. These are some of my power cells. Solid state. It's like a brick. Few volts, about 2.5 volts. I've got like 20 of these, believe it or not. Charging capacitors. I bet this thing, I wonder if it, may as well make sure it's discharged before there's not much in there, but I was just using the power cells. So now I'm just trying to look at this coil here, which I believe uses copper wire. And that's copper wire for, yeah, this is multi-strain, which gives you more surface area for your inductive kickbacks. Oh my goodness, I haven't been looking at the chat to see if I'm even. I'm just going to take a look at the chat, folks. Bear with me here, see what everyone's saying. Yeah, I'm just reading the comments here. Yeah, I'd like to move to the States, definitely. It's at a point now where, again, as I said, I guess it all depends on how the money goes, right? It's always a story of money because it's like $10,000 or more just to say boo to move from here, and then to make sure I can maintain, right? But still, like whether I pay the same here or there, I'd rather be there, really. with accessibility to everything. You bypass the Canadian border BS. I get all my parts, half of it, like probably California has like 90% of all the parts I need right there. So it's a day or two and it's delivered instead of a month or two. Even on personal research level, it would speed things up. Like parts would come in here and I'd run out of space to put everything. Even being able to go to the surplus places with the tech equipment and everything, right? A lot of that, it's weighted down, costs $200-300 in shipping. Go and pick it up there, it's free. All kinds of old CRT TV tubes, whatever, all interesting stuff personally on high voltage stuff, plasmas, whatever, right? All stuff I can't even dream of importing here, but then they'd squeeze me so tight for essentially junk, right? But you have those literal, that's what they're called, junk shops, junk yards, people, scrap yards, and they have all this stuff. And literally you can go there and pick it up. But I'm not going to drive to California to pick up a scope, right? I know that's non-working, just a scrap. But if you basically get it for free and you're local, that's great. But definitely in anything tech stuff, the US right now is the place to be. My most fellow Canadian peers will tell you no because they have, unfortunately, a delusion on who's president right now. And I really don't get that. I mean, presidents come and go, right? I mean, Canadians have had to deal with US presidents and trade deals and everything from the beginning of existence, essentially, right? And there's Republican presidents, there's Democrat presidents, and there's whatever, right? And it's a cycle. It comes and goes, and they do their thing. And some you'll like more than others, but it's business as usual at the end of the day, right? This one here was in power for some reason. They went completely apeshit over, delusional, irrational. They lost their sense of identity, and that I'm talking about not even the politicians, but the regular Canadians that live here over there. Right now, it's crazy. It's at a 79% unfavorable view Canadians think of America, which is bonkers because you, as a Canadian, I have to tell you, you need America to survive. You cannot without America. And for them to say they trust China more all of a sudden, like half of it is the people are brainwashed by the government, but the other half is I still can't figure it out myself. But it's quite insane. Like I said, it's like a delusion of who's in power right now, and just because it's that man, they are doing the opposite of everything, even if like it's politics, right? So like it's not the president that micromanages every little thing, right? And there's a lot in the U.S. system that's actually good. It's not a partisan thing. It's just good governance. It's a good program. It's whatever, right? Well, because it's the U.S., Canada's doing the exact opposite to show the U.S. that they're totally against their government. But it doesn't make sense because a lot of the stuff, like I said, is logical stuff that Canada is choosing to be on the opposite side of, just to be on the world stage and virtue signal, which is hurting the people. But again, I don't want to get too political on here, but it's very sad to see my fellow Canadians hating the people who feed us essentially so much over a delusion that, by the way, he's got what, like two years left, and it's over. So you're willing to ruin your own country over some guy who isn't even part of your own country. The whole election cycle in Canada was centered around who's going to show that man who's boss, without actually talking about the issues of what matters to Canadians and food on the table kind of stuff. It was who hates the orange man the most is going to win the election for Canada. What does this have to do with anyways? it's in the day and age we're in, right? It's strange times, I have to say. Strange times. So, yeah, it's something. And sometimes I just want to escape it because, there's nothing one can do individually. And you're not going to go to the town square and start screaming at everyone because then they're going to hate you and start calling you names. So I have to integrate, and do my life and assimilate as much of it without, to a certain point, right? There's certain things that no, I just cannot. Without, again, I can't. Certain things are probably filtered on YouTube, so I'm not going to start getting into that. But let's just say, when you can't agree on things like gender. I mean, it gets really screwy. But again, I don't want to open up that can of worms. It just gets infuriating. Very simple things that end up. Oh boy, Canada is very woke. There you go, woke. That's extremely woke. I liked it better when they were all asleep. Is that how it goes? If they're woke and everything is kind of screwy now, is that what it is? They were better when they were asleep? I don't know. Again, sorry, folks. I don't want to insult anyone here. I'm just talking off the script, right? My point is, there's nothing I can change as an individual, and I'm not an activist. I'm not going to go out there and start protesting. I don't want to put my face there as a target. I have enough of my own problems and headaches and everything. Why would I want to do that, right? But whatever turns your crank, if some people want to do that for whatever reason they got. Um, but I personally feel I don't want to pay for it all anymore here in Canada, seeing it going. I guess great if you're on that bandwagon, but I'm not on that bandwagon. So to me, it feels like it's a deteriorating thing. But I guess if you'd be on the other side of it, you'd be like, let's go full scale ahead, right? So again, it's subjective. So I don't want to personally say it's no good. I'm just personally hurt by it based on my own morals and feelings, right? So I explain my angle, and that's just where I stand. Not trying to say it's right or wrong. It's me, right? And I guess that's what matters. Hmm. Well, just people saying they gotta go. Yeah, and good. Thanks for being around. Whoever. So I'm sorry if I don't associate with the chat. It's so small. I'm trying. I don't know how do people do this. The quote unquote YouTube pros. They must have an app or something that scrolls it in big because I'm steady, always like trying to read the chat. It looks this big, and when I'm there, I look kind of silly reading. Maybe it's the angle of the camera, and then if I have the computer here, then I would. But then you'd see my nostrils. That's too close. Oh well, whatever works. We're not a commercial company here, so video quality is not studio. I'm just blogging for myself, basically video blogging, right? This is what it's called, right? Video blogs. And I like it because it's my way. It's so quiet here in the winter and we're isolated, and it's a way I end up feeling connected with the world, people with similar interests. I don't feel so alone. So the distance is no longer such a thing with the internet, right? So yeah, it makes it feel better in the winter time when it's like, oh my goodness, it's dark and there's no one out there. There's a lot out there. It's just not here physically in this town. So yeah, that makes me feel better all the time when I see that people talk and saying hello and whatever it is you have to say. And yeah, I totally was going to try something here. And in my video comments, I had this thing here about Walter Russell and Scalar Lab. Ooh. digestion issues with my dinner here. Yeah, Walter Russell and Tom Bearden philosophy kind of merged it together here. I've got the link if you on the comments, and I was just doing some LC Scalar tank calculations here, and just figuring out the difference because I have a whole bunch of cores, right? And I must have shown you people this before, but I got really fancy stuff here that I've worked on. So this is one of the coils here. And I've got all the filtering Don Smith style, right, and different probes for it. So they get the high and low frequencies. And on this side here is the variable capacitors for tuning each side. And I was just trying to find out, the materials so I could run the calculators here. And that's essentially what I was going to do. And then I was looking for my meter, and then I realized I had no batteries because I wanted to see if I can trigger some inductive kickbacks at the calculated frequency, just I guess for shits and giggles, if that's the word for it. Something to do for the evening, hook it up to the scope and the meter, see what it does. So I have another one here, it was larger, which I figured different frequency range. I got a bunch of coils, all kinds, tunable ones. Here's a canceling one here on board. Another thing, this one here's a top secret. It's canceling, and I have two capacitor plates on each side to pick up something I never finished actually. And these are great. These are awesome. I got like a box of these for decoupling the byproduct and essentially the high frequency chokes, RF chokes. On some of your projects, if you're lucky, you could like actually charge a 12-volt batteries off of a byproduct of the field with these. This one's kind of cool. Ancient tuning coupling coil. It's variable and moves inside. See, it's got like a cone there, but it's literally on the opposite. So you're canceling out part of that winding, and it comes out of old radio tuning equipment. The box here, it's all power cells. Like I said, I got like 20 of these power cells. And I got one over here. It's running the clock. I monitor it every day to see if it kicks out or anything, or even if it's giving any signs of what's the word I'm looking for here? Corrosion. Nothing like that. So it's completely in. Well, I showed it in the cup, right? In vegetable oil. So I'm isolating it from moisture in the air and oxygen from the outside. Essentially a vacuum seal. And it's been working very strongly for what it is since December. I'm actually still trying to figure out why it's working so well. It's based on a lot of, it modified the composition a little. See, these things here are essentially peg cells, right? And what am I trying to get at? they depend. All of these systems here they're open, right? So whichever way it is, like where did I put it? I have the air cell. It's better with the air cell. Um, right here. Oh no, that's not it. I got so many cells, right? But the air cell concept, which is just like a hydrogen fuel cell, I reverse engineered the concept essentially. It's in some of my videos, making it work with oxygen instead and air breathing on its own. Runs an LED and a clock and that sort of thing. But my point is, depending on the variant, there's always an external factor driving it, right? And a lot of people get, I guess, I don't know why you would be if you understand, but oh well, you're cheating, you're using the air, or oh, it's galvanic, it's the moisture, and whatever, you know, gotcha, they've got a gotcha, right? So I tried a new composition that was a little different. And I said I want to seal it completely from something that could work in space out of pure potential differences at the electrostatic quantum level. That wouldn't corrode, that wouldn't depend on hydrogen, that wouldn't depend on any gases, that wouldn't depend on, that doesn't need any of that. It's not air breathing, it's airtight. That's why I got it in the oil here. And it's putting out a continuous current. And I've got a composition, I don't know where it is, I should have it, I think it's in this bucket here. Yeah, right here. Slightly different composition, different tint inside of here, right? Hardly no potential. Hardly no potential. Meanwhile, the one that I built these the same day. It's just the difference is I put one of these and I said I'm going to put the oil in there in a cup and seal it right away. It's been running ever since. These ones, I'll measure a slight beep for a while, and when I put the meter, it's high impedance, and even that drains it, and I have to wait a few seconds, and it comes. So there's still an electrostatic, but it's so minuscule. It's like, by proof of concept, it was interesting. I dipped something very similar in the oil. I'm not sure what the vegetable oil at this point as a byproduct is supposed to. I use it as a sealer so that it wouldn't get air or moisture. And for some reason, the fact that it's not getting air or moisture is giving it more of a continuous current. Like the clock LED doesn't dim after a few seconds. It stays very, I can short it out in a meter and get close to half an amp continuous on, not half an amp, half a milliamp. Half an amp, I'd be really happy. But yeah, real measurable, the peg cells, I see the potential, but I don't see a current when I put the meter in the current mode. This one here I do. And it's been running like that since December, and then no corrosion, nothing weird coming out of the oil. It's perfectly clean, nice and see-through. So now it's trying to reverse engineer why it's working so well. But that's my own little project. What kind of gets to me is it's basically the reverse of what you think. The one that's open in the air, you think, well, it might be cheating. It might be a microscopic galvanic effect, like the moisture to energy converter with the crystals, like John Hutchinson and John Bedini was doing. Or another variant, an air cell. It's hydrogen, but like the hydrogen reaction, but with the oxygen. One way or another, it's something nearby that's coupling into it. Now, I've eliminated that source by dunking it in the oil. It's been running like that for weeks. And it's not draining itself, nor reducing itself in mass. So no mass reduction, no corrosion, and it's keeping itself going. And the fact that it's isolated from the environment is what seems to be keeping it going. Like reverse of what, sometimes this stuff, I tell you, when you think you know it all, something throws you for a loop completely in the other direction. because this is something. I mean, it's almost too much to run the clock. You know where the LED is, it's almost burning it in there. It's so like bold, right? Like almost like you're overdriving it. That's how the clock is looking on that.